Hi, and welcome to Always Bring a Book. I'm Craig. Today's episode features two amazing guests, author Eleanor Anstruther and Alisa Kennedy-Jones, the publisher at Empress Editions, who's publishing Eleanor's new novel, Fallout, which comes out today on April 21st. I had a great time getting to know both of them and hear about their journeys in the bookish world, and I hope you will too. As always, stick around after the conversation for some book recommendations. Thanks for listening.
Annabelle was damp, cold, frightened and bruised all over. She'd hitched a lift in a van. It had felt like the last ride out of there, and been tossed about like a stick. Nothing to sit on but a pile of empty sacks. Janet looked past her as if she was going to produce Bridget from the dark. "Is she with you?" "Who is this?" snapped Ray. Janet put a hand on his arm. "She's from school. Is she with you?" "You can see perfectly well she's not with her. Why would she be with her? What have you done with her?" "We've lost Bridget," said Janet. "I've lost Bridget," said Annabelle at the same time. "What I mean is, I'm sure she's fine. There's plenty there who'll look after her, and Kate's waited behind with Peggy, and really, it's the safest place on earth if you think about it, apart from the bombs. Not that they've arrived yet, but the military..." She was getting off the point. She'd been rehearsing what she was going to say on the whole bumpy ride to Kingston, where she jumped out and caught the train. Kate had given her the address. It wasn't far from her own flat, where Reepicheep and Prince Caspian were waiting in their little cage, where supper was in the cupboard, where a hot bath was only the flick of a switch away. But the faces of Bridget's parents were putting her off. There were so many women, more than anyone expected, and the girls, I think they must have got caught up in it, all the excitement. "I know I did. You should have seen it, Mrs. Reynolds. Janet, may I call you that?" She'd never called her that before. The teachers and the dinner ladies kept their worlds apart. "It was so good of you to let her come, and she won't have gone far. What I mean is, she'll be at one of the camps, and there's food and a bed, and it's perfectly safe, only, of course, you'll be worried. I didn't know she'd get so excited by it. I mean, of course, I hoped, but kids, you never know, do you? And your Bridget, she's always been so quiet." She trailed off. Bridget's parents stared at her. "What bombs?" said Janet.
Today I am joined by novelist Eleanor Anstruther, whose new book Fallout is out April 21st, and Alisa Kennedy-Jones, author, publisher, and founder of Empress Editions, the independent press releasing Fallout that is dedicated to amplifying the voices of women in midlife. Welcome to the podcast, both of you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yes, happy to be here.
I want to start with Fallout, your newest novel. It comes out in just about a week on April 21st. And
right.
I have the galley sitting right here, and it has a blurb on the back describing it as a punk-hearted coming-of-age novel of rebellion, love, and reinvention. For listeners who are coming in fresh and might not be familiar, what's the story and where does it begin?
Well, with Fallout, it's always best if I tell you the setting, because that's the bit that a lot of people, and this is the reason I wrote the novel, they haven't heard of it. It's set at Greenham Common Women's Peace Camp, which was a protest camp set up in 1981 by a bunch of women who were furious and strongly objected to the fact that the British government had shaken hands with Reagan and allowed for cruise missiles, that's nuclear warheads to you and I, to be sighted on British soil and pointed at Moscow in an arrangement called MAD, which was mutually assured destruction. So a bunch of women set off from Wales to Greenham Common in Berkshire, and they set up a camp there. And nobody came to that camp for about a year. The press weren't at all interested. They chained themselves to the railings. The guards thought they were the cleaners. Nothing happened. So on December 12th, 1982, which is when the novel begins, they decided to hold the first real action. And it was called Embrace the Base on Sunday, Close the Base on Monday. And because it was 1982, there was no mobile phones, there was no emails. So they literally created these flyers and they put them on bus stops and they handed them out at libraries and on the high street. And that day, and it was winter, 30,000 women turned up to Greenham Common, which was just the most remarkable turnout to embrace the 9-mile perimeter fence. And thousands and thousands and thousands of women didn't go home because it became not only a protest site, but a refuge for women from all over the country. So the novel is about our hero is Bridget. This is why it's punk-hearted coming of age. She's Bridget. She's 15 years old. She's not at all interested in politics. Her parents are boring. Her home is embarrassing. She doesn't want to go to school. But her art teacher says to her, do you want to come to Embrace the Base? So she lies to her parents and goes there just so she doesn't have to go to netball at school. But when she arrives at Greenham Common on December 12th, and she sees the fence for the first time, and she sees the women for the first time, her whole world is just opened up. And so she runs away into the camp and refuses to come home.
In your Substack, you frame this as a story about aftermath. What drew to that approach for the novel, versus the moment that everything kind of like breaks open?
I think because Greenham changed people. All the women that I interviewed for Greenham said that, it was the very first time when they could go and be humans, really, rather than the sort of generic woman and the patriarchal box that they were supposed to fit in. And it changed all of them. And a lot of them, their lives in many ways kind of fell apart after Greenham because they couldn't go back into the boxes that they were supposed to fit in. And for Bridget at 15, her arrival at Greenham not only awakens her political heart and introduces her to what a woman can be when she's just seen as another human being, but it also breaks open the secret in her family. And it's that aspect of Greenham. And of course, the name Fallout, when we associate the word fallout with nuclear fallout. And of course, it's about removing cruise missiles from the place. And it's just worth noting that Greenham went on for 19 years, and the aftermath of Greenham is still being felt now, which is why I wrote the novel, because I read an article this morning, and it's now being called mutually automated destruction, and that's AI military. So we're back in mad. I never, all writers want to hit the zeitgeist, but this is a mixed blessing, I have to say. Nevertheless, now is the time to remember Greenham.
I don't know if you can see in my copy, I started underlining things, and I was like, this is beyond timely in like a very interesting but very depressing way as well.
I know. I mean, if I could swap it out, I would, because ultimately I would rather we weren't in this maddened leaders threatening global annihilation. But nevertheless, here we are. So let's remember, Greenham women, they succeeded. They persisted. They knew how powerful it is to be annoying. And that's what I pursue now. True. The power of being annoying is huge.
Oh, indeed. Absolutely. I know it.
Yeah.
Alisa, I want to switch over to you and Empress Editions. So it's very exciting that you guys are putting out this book, and I would love for you just to tell us about Empress and what gap are you trying to fill in like the publishing world with this press?
Oh gosh. So we started very humbly as part of sitting around the Zoom, I think just right after COVID, with a writer you may know, Kirsten Miller, who wrote The Change. It's one of the best-selling midlife women's novels in the US. And we were lamenting the state of midlife women's lives and how hard it was to thrive. There's a 13% unemployment rate once you hit age 50 in the US for women, and you're just walked out of your job, you're quietly disappeared, you become, or not so quietly. And it's scary to think about how you're going to persist and thrive in that third act of your life. So we thought about all the writers we knew who were being sort of gate-kept out of publishing as well, and how the model no longer worked for them. And so we put together a different model, which was one more driven by profit sharing. And it was driven by letting women, letting women guide their own editorial voices and saying, okay, so how do we flip the script on this with better royalties, stronger editorial support, more marketing that's driven by authentic voices, more support than the big five give, and just more focus, because midlife women deserve three things to thrive. They need cultural visibility, because they've lost it entirely by age 55. Unless you're Naomi Watts, then you're great. But also they deserve socioeconomic power again. And that comes from just straight up money.
Mm.
And the third thing they need is state-of-the-art healthcare. So how do we build back in structures for healthcare? So we started building that model and built it into our contracts. And we started going. And one of the first novels that we acquired was Eleanor's because it spoke to us. It spoke to me in particular because I had grown up as Bridget in
Mm.
California with parents who were, I mean, I want to say pretty hippie driven and political. But by then they were more hippie adjacent in the 80s. And I had been arrested at Peace Camp with Martin Sheen at an Embrace the Base event at Nevada Test Site. So when I was reading and listening to Eleanor, because she had recorded the passages so beautifully, I was like, oh, we have to, oh, I wonder if there's any way. And I know we'd known each other already through, like, she was coming to San Francisco, where I was at the time. And I was like, oh, my mom trained at Chez Panisse. Are you going to Chez Panisse? And oh, la, 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 la. And, I was fangirling all over the place. So, yeah, so that's why we started Empress. It started with Kirsten Miller saying we just have to hire each other, all of us. And so we did.
Mm.
We started
Yeah.
all hiring each other.
That's the heart of it, hiring each other, isn't it? It's such a simple,
It's
it's such a simple
thing.
and radical act.
Like,
Exactly. So effective. Exactly. And what a team now. I mean, I'm so honored. When I got the me and Elisa were having a little exchange and she said, well, and I was like, really? You want Fallout? And she was like, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, this is extraordinary. And it has been the most extraordinary experience, and carries on. But it's been brilliant. No, it's been brilliant. I'm
And it's
so
not even
proud.
out yet. It's
Not
the
even
best
out
is
yet.
yet
And
to
it's
come.
well, yeah, exactly. We're doing a UK US simultaneous release, which is really,
Mm.
Alisa is juggling about 400 balls at once. But we had to do both places because it's such a British book, and yet
Yeah.
actually there are so many crossovers to the United States. Obviously, unfortunately, in terms of the zeitgeist, and obviously historically in terms of Nevada and the test sites and all the rest of it. So,
Oh,
I'm
and I
just
got
thrilled
out
and honored.
immediately. We were released immediately, so we didn't spend too much time in the clink, just so you all know.
So you mentioned the big five and how it's so different than the way you guys handle publishing. And Eleanor, you've written about, the emotional toll that it took when you were trying to go more the traditional route with publishing,
Yeah.
with some of the mainstream players there. And then eventually, chose a different path with some self-publishing and like the way you stream books on Substack, et cetera. What shifted for you there? And I just heard from Alisa what made Fallout so perfect for Empress, but what about Empress made it the right home for your book?
Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much published through every route now. So I started very traditionally with Salt, who were amazing, and then the next three novels that my agent submitted, we couldn't get a foothold, and that's why I came to Substack. And then, as you say, I did my memoir and my second novel, which we hadn't been able to find a buyer for. I did those myself just to find out. And then I streamed Fallout on Substack, and Alisa picked it up. And, where other people had passed or just not been interested. And, there's a million reasons why. And so, but ultimately, if somebody doesn't love it enough, they don't love it enough. But luckily, Alisa did. And I think the heart and soul of Fallout is about being radical protest and thinking outside of how we're supposed to behave. And that is exactly what Empress Editions do as well. Alisa is rewriting the book on what publishing can be, not only for midlife women, but as a structure and a form, the profit share and the amount of energy that's put in and the amount of communication and transparency that we get. And then Alisa's rolling her eyes, and I know that as well. I mean, you have, when you go big, and I haven't gone big five, and, maybe one day I will, who knows, but I have lots of friends who have. And, the truth of it is, big five, you've either got to be the gazillion seller or you really don't exist. There's no transparency. Salter had a really great experience, and I cannot sing their praises enough. They're amazing. But to take Fallout, a radical punk, revolutionary book, and to put it with a publisher who is punk and wild and revolutionary just feels like the perfect fit. All the blurbs, all the stuff. Alisa just got it. Like, she really got it immediately. And I just, every writer wants their book to be really, really understood. And Alisa really got it.
I also want to say that I think Molly Zakur, our editor, who is
Yeah,
also
brilliant.
the editor for, gosh, some amazing people. Elizabeth Strout, who is I worship her,
Me too.
but also Grant Ginder, who is hysterically funny, from People We Hate at the Wedding, which has sold a gazillion copies.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, she really got it too. And to watch the two of you, Eleanor, to watch the two of you work together, like, and to see the tennis ball floating across the court, going, what about this? And I don't know, how should we do it this way? And to see the book evolve from
Yeah.
its first like conversation within
Yeah.
Empress to the final draft. It's just like so exciting
It
for
was
me.
exciting. And as well, because Molly's, I don't know, 20 years younger than me. So it was
I
really
know.
great. But that was great because Bridget is 15 and there's a range of ages. Just to revert back to celebrating midlife women, Greenham was just absolutely chock-a-block with midlife women and older women and younger women as well. So to work with an editor, and Molly is brilliant, who was younger. So we keep that younger voice, and she really understood about plotting, and we did some pretty good change. I mean, pretty major structural changes and really exciting. But a good editor, every writer will tell you, makes a book. I mean, there's just no question about it.
You sort
Yeah.
of alluded to this a minute ago when you were talking about the editing process, but do you think that Fallout would exist in the same form that it's coming out in if it was on a different publisher? Like say one of the bigger ones
Sure.
versus a kind of smaller, more like punk publisher. Like, how do you think the book is different because of that?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you when it was out on submission originally, the responses I was getting back, and this was from Big Five and from some indies, but mainly the Big Five, those editors would generally say they wanted more, and they wanted it to be, hold your breath, everyone, more like women's fiction, whatever
Mm.
that
I was
means.
just going to say, what does that
What
exactly mean?
does that mean? But it basically means kind of like all the supporting cast. So that's Kate, Annabelle, Maureen, Dawn, Cerise. They wanted, and Bridget's mother. They wanted bigger. They wanted me to expand it. And it's a 70,000 word book. For me, 70,000 is like a really tight, moving piece of fiction. I'm not George Eliot. If I was, I would go for 120,000 or 90,000 or 100,000, but I'm not there yet. Do you know what I mean? And
Mm.
so I know a great deal of books which could have done with some serious cutting, but I know why that they were expanded, because there's this idea that women's fiction, and I'm making
Air quotes,
inverted
yeah.
commas, air quotes, requires some sort of long drag through back. I don't know. I just was like, look, this is a moving plot, man. Let's get on with it. And so yeah, that would have been different. I think Kate particularly would have much more. It would have strayed from its center, because its center is about Bridget and what happens when she has to bring politics home, like when she has to put her Greenham sort of morals where her mouth is, you know what I mean, and apply them to the secret that is embedded in her family. That's the point of that novel.
Mm.
And it is about acceptance, and it is about growth and learning, and the politics being personal. And I think other editors in Big Five, let's say, it's easy to point the gun at Big Five because we're just looking at, you know what I mean? There are
Yeah,
some
yeah.
brilliant indies out there who might have edited it really well and really differently, but they would have made it a big, fat, longer story, which is not my style.
with a four-woman cast that they can move immediately to film, which
Mm.
can also
Sure.
be done later, and you can stay
Yeah.
centered in the actual IP that exists now. The other thing
Yeah.
we do from a data perspective, and this is me being a nerd, is that women want to read 70 to 90,000 word books. This is what they have time for right now. Women in
Mhm.
our life and state of being. And
Yeah.
so,
You've got to have a good reason to write a doorstopper, and there are good reasons. Donna
yeah,
Tartt had a very good reason to write,
my
right?
favorite book, one of my
Right.
favorite books of all time.
But
Wait,
there's an
wait,
awful
wait.
lot.
Secret
Which
History
one?
or Cold?
Yeah.
Yeah, Secret History, Secret
Okay.
Secret
History.
History, which is
Yeah.
not a doorstop, but obviously the
Oh,
Goldfinch
sorry,
was. And yeah,
that's my book. But
Oh, me,
yeah.
me
But
too. Me too.
yeah, the Secret History is absolutely
I mean,
fabulous.
I lived in Bennington, so I'm just like, oh, like, yeah,
But
we're
I think a lot of female women's fiction, again I'm making the air quotes, women's fiction is padded out to 90 from 70, not for the right reason. And I think that's to the detriment. And also, we want men reading. You know what I mean? Why does it have to be gendered? We want men reading. So
all the
that
people.
drives all the people. We want all the people reading. So, like, everyone reading, regardless of whether you gender identify.
So I find we've kind of scratched the surface of talking about, women in midlife, and how is like that point in your life kind of shaped the stories that you want to tell at this stage in your life, both either as an author or as a publisher.
Eleanor, you go first. What do you want to do next? And what's your vision for your midlife?
Well, I absolutely think that menopause is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I hope any woman out there who's heading into menopause, I want you to hear me. It's the best thing that can happen to you. The gloves are off. You are no longer pleasing people. We've always been able to dress how we want and say what we want, but we don't, for hormonal reasons and for patriarchal reasons. And may I always repeat when I use the P word, patriarchy is to the detriment of all humans, not just women. But at 50, I'm now 55, I have realized my freedom to speak and act and write anything I want. I've been writing professionally for 20 years. I know I'm getting better. I really enjoy getting better at it. And so to write this novel, to write a 15-year-old was what I loved about writing a 15-year-old, which is obviously years in my past, was their really black and white thinking, which is somehow does have a correlation in terms of saying whatever the hell you want, which happens at 55. So there's a very nice bridge between Bridget and someone my age. Bridget does it because she is ignorant and believes she knows everything. I do it because I am now wise. And I know, given kindness to all beings, I can use my voice and I can say what I like, and I do. So that is the great joy of it. I am already working on the next novel, and I am celebrating even more the 60s, a particular woman in her 60s. But it is a fantastic time of life. I mean, my God, you throw off the shackles. It's heaven.
I love it. And for
Elisa?
you, Elisa, what do you think is different about Empress now starting it at this point in your life? Say if you would have started it 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
I don't think I could have. I really don't think I would have been able to handle all of the balls that
Mm.
I mean, just the stream of consciousness
Yeah.
in a day, and how many tasks and requests and things that we have to, how many obstacles that have to get removed in getting a book published there's just so many things that you have to know, and there's so much help you have to ask for. And as a person who was a kind of Tracy Flick person in her younger days, who's like, I can do it. I can do it all. I know the answer. I've got that. I can do this. There's still a bit of that hunker, just sort of haunting me. I am much better at asking for help now. I am much better at saying, can you help me with this? I don't know how to do this, and I need your wisdom on this. And so that's reaching out to people in the publishing world and saying, I don't know. Yeah, I know this must have happened before in publishing. Can you help me solve this? Is something that I'm able to do because of just the generosity of the publishing world and all the people that I've met as an author and as and as a writer in other different across other different platforms. And so I have a lot of gratitude, and I am learning a ton. I'm much more open to learning than maybe I was as a young punk.
And the wealth of experience, the asking for help and the wealth of experience around us, like the talent that is there for midlife women to draw on amongst each other is just phenomenal. And, and here's where it does get a little bit gendered in terms of the kind of patriarchal structures that we're all grown up with. And this, again, relates to Greenham. And the reason why there weren't men at Greenham, well, there were two reasons, really. One, it would become more violent, and they knew that. And also because when you get a bunch of men, and this is, again, just patriarchal conditioning, you tend to get a top-down power structure. Whereas when women work together, you just get a skill share.
It is a skill share, and it's a whisper, like network almost, of here's how you do this.
Yeah.
When the patriarchy does come in, it's usually to spank you for some reason or say, you can't say that. And I'm like, why not?
Yeah. Why can't I say that? Yeah, it's often you can't. And again, at Greenham, that was like, you can't do that. Well, actually, we can do that. And we are going to do that.
Actually, here are the receipts and here's the contract. And actually, I think we can. So, so we have a little more calm and we're not as shaken at this stage. We're able to say, knock yourself out if you're going to do that sort of thing.
And there's plenty of us who've now got disposable income at this age. We've worked, we're 55, and we can start to spend it on each other, on projects and industries like this, like Empress.
And we have a coven and community. I say coven lightly, but it's true. Everyone in our author community pretty much really takes care of each other. They show up for each other. Like all the authors, other Empress authors pretty much are flying in on their own dime for Eleanor to help her launch in New York this weekend and in Boston. Not this weekend, but next weekend.
Next weekend. It's true. Yeah. It's a coven. I'll let you into a little secret. I was there back in May for one of the other coven, Kim Warner's amazing memoir. And I had a really terrible personal event happen that weekend, which I couldn't talk about until like after Kim's event. When I did eventually talk about it, I found myself at a table with the coven. I'd never met them before. The arms around me. I haven't just joined a publishing house. I have joined a coven, and we all have, and we genuinely, we look out for each other.
This is amazing. In the beginning, I was like, so why do you think this book for this press? And now I'm like, it couldn't have come out. Like, this is the place. You
can join. Yeah. We welcome men.
You can be an honorable midlife woman. How about
we have honorable midlife women? We do.
I've made it. Eleanor, when someone finishes Fallout, what do you hope stays with them?
I hope, particularly now, that their faith in human nature is restored and they understand the power of protest. Because, it takes a lot to get out on the streets. And protest doesn't have to be out on the streets. It can be just not dyeing your hair, which I don't, or deciding not to wear makeup, or saying, actually, no, I won't do your washing for you, or whatever you have the resources to do. But the power of protest and the point of protest, I hope people walk away thinking, oh, there is a point, and that sense that to not feel powerless in the face of this utterly overwhelming. I mean, we have, toddler tyrants really busy trying to blow our world up. And we can all feel so overwhelmed, like, what can I do? But what you can do is remember how beautiful humans are, have faith in human kindness, and then whatever resources you have to use your voice in those moments to stand up for whatever you believe in, to stand up for it, you can do it. And I hope that Fallout and the women of Greenham will leave you with that sense that you matter, people are extraordinary, we can do incredible things. There was a saying, and it's the front of the book, there's nothing so powerful as an idea whose time has come. And it's a really important tenet to hold, because we don't have to be powerful. The idea that we can live peacefully together and look after each other symbiotically, that is an idea whose time has come.
I love that. And Alisa, with your work, what do you hope changes about, people's perception or the way they think about the types of, voices that you're amplifying with your releases?
I hope that amid all of the, again, to quote Eleanor, toddler tyrants
Mhm.
ruling the world right now, that they find that when they finish an Empress book, that they feel like a fucking queen, that
Yes.
they feel amazing, that they have some joy, that they can access a deep pocket of joy within themselves, even if for a moment,
Mm.
because that's all we got.
Yeah.
So I always end each episode asking for a good thing because there's so much everything we just talked about that sucks about the world. I think we could all use a little bit more joy. So I'd ask each of you for one good thing that you think that we should be giving a try. And it can be a book recommendation, but can also just be anything that's been bringing you joy in your life recently.
Well, this isn't going to suit everyone, but a cold bath every morning, it brings me enormous joy. Because I tell you what, I know, but I tell you what it does. Because if I can't go wild swimming, which I can't because I'm living in London now, but I have cold baths and cold showers, and it's like they reset the clock inside of me. They like time just stops, and I get that pause, and I can start all over again. They
How
are
cold are we
like
talking here?
as cold as possible.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. But I know there's a stat, and I'll tell you this. I don't do cocaine anymore, but a line of cocaine produces exactly the same dopamine effect as a cold bath, but the cold bath lasts all day and you don't come down and you won't get arrested. So that, my listener friends, if you want an easy fix, it's free, it takes seconds, and it will change your world.
Okay, mine is the opposite, my
A nice
love.
hot shower.
Mine
Yeah, a
is
hot
to
bath.
read in a hot bath. I love to read in the hot
This is why me and
bath.
Lisa go on so well. We're like opposites.
Yes.
Hot bath. Reading in the bath for all of February is my joy.
Perfect. I love how those are the opposite.
I know. We did not plan that.
We didn't. It's
We didn't. I know.
Before I let you both go, I mean, I know we've talked a ton about Fallout, and you mentioned that you're already starting the next novel, but
Yeah.
what should listeners be on the lookout from both of you?
Well, I will be doing lots and lots of Substack lives over the coming year, which will be fun. Yeah, I've got a new book in production, but we're way off, so I can't say anything about that right now. I will be in Boston and New York in a couple of weeks, and just look out, I think, for all the great, including me, great Empress authors. We're all out there. We're all producing books. Go on the website. You will find us.
Oh, and for us, we're our next, I want to say, our next big book, look for it in the falls in September, is Are You There, God? It's Me, Menopause.
Mm.
And that is
Fantastic,
a
Heather.
wonderfully Gen X ode by Heather J. Robertson, a Gen X ode to female friendship, menopause, and midlife reinvention.
And she's wild. Have her on the podcast. She's absolutely wild.
She's bananas.
She's bananas.
Now I'm really interested what makes someone
She's
bananas.
an ex-Navy SEAL. She's an ex-Navy SEAL.
Yeah, she's
no
serious.
shit. Serious. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you both so much for your time.
Pleasure.
Oh, pleasure.
I'm going to drop in in Boston on that bookshop. I'll come find you.
Come
Yes.
to our party.
Oh, I totally will.
Yeah, come to our party. Listen, will you send Craig an invite?
Absolutely.
Great.
100%.
Perfect. Okay,
Awesome.
great.
See you soon then.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. Go support your local bookstore and an indie publisher by grabbing Fallout today. You can buy a paperback or an ebook on bookshop.org. So a few episodes ago, I recommended The Return by Rachel Harrison, and since then, I have been on a journey. I've been reading nothing but Rachel recently, so my recommendation this week is less a single book and more for you to go on that same journey. She has books about possessions, vampires, werewolves, witches. I mean, what else could you really want? She has a new novel titled Kiss, Slay, Replay coming out in September, which I am super excited about. So you have plenty of time to read all of her other books before that drops. And I will do my very best to have her on the podcast closer to the pub date for that one. I can't tease who I'm having on the next episode because I am knee deep in scheduling like 4 or 5 different authors and figuring out schedules and all of that. But I am super excited about every single one of them, so stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram at Always Bring a Book Podcast to know when those will be coming out. And until next time, thanks for listening.